Just going to go through the diagrams for income elasticity of demand. But again, it's worthwhile reminding ourselves of the formula. Percentage change in quantity demand divided by a percentage change in income. Now we're going to call percentage change in income, the letter for income is Y. Okay? So percentage change in quantity demand divided by percentage change in income. So let's take the first diagram. Now this is the only time that you will ever put income on the y-axis, always quantity demand here, and it's the only time that you will ever draw a demand curve which is actually upward sloping. So let me show you exactly what that looks like now. Okay, so what we have here is we must label it D1. Let's take a position somewhere here, call it P. We mustn't call it P because obviously we're not talking about price here, my mistake. We call it Y and Q. And Y and Q is a position. Now let's imagine that there is a rise in income. Okay, let's say to Y1. Now when there's a rise in income, an upward sloping demand curve with income on the y-axis will show an increase in quantity demand. In other words, if you have more money, from Y to Y1, you will actually consume more from Q to Q1. So which kind of goods are what we consider to be normal goods? Normal goods, therefore, definition, if income rises, we buy more of those goods. There's an increase in quantity demand. And the same would be true if income was to decrease. If there was not an increase in income, but maybe the starting position now is Y1, and there was a decrease in income down to Y, then there would be a decrease in quantity demand. So let's give some examples here with some numbers. Let's go back to our first example where Y was increasing to Y1. So there's an increase in income. Let's say that's a plus 10% rise in people's income, causing, let's say, a plus 15% change in income. All we have to do now is we have to put these into the formula. Here's the formula. So the letter Y. So I'm just going to swap this income for the letter Y, and we'll put the increase in income is a plus 10%, causing a plus 15% in quantity equals plus 1.5. The values of all elasticities are the same. Between 0 and 1, it's inelastic. And over 1, so greater than 1, is elastic. Now, of course, 1.5 is greater than 1, so it's elastic. So this particular diagram, this first diagram, is a normal good. A normal good because when incomes rise, quantity demand rises, or when incomes fall, quantity demand falls. And it's elastic because the level of change in quantity, the level of change in quantity demand is significant. It's a big change. It's 15%. And the level of demand is proportionate. The change in level of demand is proportionally greater than the change in income. It would work the other way if we were to say that the quantity demand, so D, QD, quantity demand and income, let's do it the other way around. If there was a fall in income by 10% and that would lead to a fall in the quantity demand, it would still be that plus 1.5. So the plus with income elasticity immediately tells you that the good is a normal good. And the number will tell you about the level of change. In this case, we know it's elastic. Okay, and moving on then to the second diagram, income elasticity for an inferior good. Now this time, slightly different. We have a negative relationship. And just to put that on here again, we put income on the y-axis and quantity demanded D1. And again, let's take a position Y, call that Q, and that's an increase in income to Y1, causing a decrease in quantity demand. So it's a bit more difficult to think of the examples here. Change in quantity demand, percentage change in income. A bit more difficult to think about, for example, if you had 10% more money, what kind of goods, let's call that a minus 20, what kind of goods would you buy less of? So more money, 10% more money, and I'm suggesting there's a 20% decrease in quantity demand. Yes, it's a minus, and it'd be minus 2. It would work the other way if there was a, let's say, to work that the other way, there would be a fall in income of 10%. That would cause an increase in quantity by 20%. Well, that would be the same. Fall in income causing an increase in quantity. Now, again, the answer would still be minus 2. So the minus sign immediately tells you for income elasticity that these goods are inferior goods. And the number 2, again, tells you that it's elastic. But what examples can we think about for goods where we have more money and we consume fewer goods, or we have less money, which is now my example on the board, you have less money and you actually buy more? Perhaps things like tinned meat, tinned fish, any tinned food. What about bus tickets? What about takeaway food? And also the value products that you have in supermarkets, the products with no brand on there. Now those would all be examples of inferior goods. I'm sure you could think of your own. Any problems? Let me know. Thank you.